Hello everyone, this is Anurag and today we'll be studying current and charge. So let's move into the journey of flow of electrons. Now what is a charge? The answer is charge is inherent property of matter that feels force of attraction or repulsion due to excess or deficiency of electrons. Okay, so simply charge is nothing but the property of matter, that is it feels force of attraction or repulsion due to excess or deficiency of electrons. We consider only two types of charges, that is a positive charge which happens due to deficiency of electrons, and second one is a negative charge which happens due to excess of electrons. As electrons is basically negatively charged, so more the number of electrons, more will be the negative charge. Less the number of electrons, lesser will be the negative charge, and higher will be the positive charge. So SI unit of charge is called coulomb and denoted by capital letter C. And it is now the question is, how is it measured? How the charge is measured? The answer is it is measured by electroscope. Now what is electroscope? Let's understand it further. Now, before studying the electroscope, let's just understand the basics of charges and electrostatics. Now, we will understand this by use of two experiments. Now, what I have done here is, let's take an ebonite rod. And when I rub it on fur, now generally what happens is ebonite and fur both are in their stable states. That is, they have net charge 0. Net positive charge is equal to net negative charge, hence total charge is 0. Now, when I rub them together, due to conduction of charges, ebonite gets net negative charge. That is, more number of electrons from fur get attracted towards the ebonite, and fur gets net positive charge and ebonite rod gets net negative charge. Now, when I just take this rod near some pieces of pith, it actually gets attracted because pith is net positively charged and the ebonite is net negatively charged. And as we know, unlike charges attract each other, like charges repel each other. So unlike charges are here, so actually this pith having less mass gets attracted towards the ebonite rod. So this is called electrostatic attraction. Now, in the second example, what we do is we take a glass rod, okay, transparent glass rod, and what we do is we just rub it over a silk cloth. Now here silk cloth is important. When you do so, what happens is more number of electrons from the glass rod gets into the silk cloth. Here the reverse process happens because the silk has tendency to attract electrons, hence silk get net negative charge and the glass rod gets net positive charge. Now this glass rod, when we take near to the paper of pieces or anything else that is having net negative charge, it gets attracted. So this is the basics of charge, how the positive and negative charges behave in front of each other. Now let's understand the electroscope. That is a device used to measure the charge or amount of charge on certain substance. Now what it consists is, it is a closed jar. This is evacuated jar, that is it contains vacuum inside it. Now this jar is generally earthed. Okay, earth means this is connected to the ground so that no net charge is present on this glass jar. Now, this is a brass disc, and this disc is connected to a clamp here. This clamp is connected to two gold leaves. Yes, gold leaves. Now, why gold leaves? As we know, gold is a noble metal and also it's highly ductile so that it can be converted into thin sheets. That's why gold is preferred to be used here as a form of leaves. Now, one more thing to notice here is this brass disc or this brass rod is not connected anywhere directly to this end glass bottle. Yes, now because there's an insulated plug here. If we directly connect this brass to the glass, it will automatically get earth and there will be no net charge detected by this gold leaves. Now when we connect a new substance on or a substance on which we have to detect the net charge, when we place it here, what happens is, if the substance is having net negative charge, whole charge is distributed along this brass disc or brass rod, and this charge is now gets towards the gold leaves. Now if it is having a net negative charge, what happens is both these plates are having net negative charge, and these are very light, and also there's no resistance inside this bottle as it is having vacuum inside. So this negative charge on this leaf and negative charge on this leaf actually repels each other. As we know, like charges repel each other, and this leaves actually falls apart. Now the angle between these leaves actually gives us the amount of net charge present here. Yes, we can't detect if it is net positively charged or net negatively charged, but we can detect the amount of charge present on the body, which we keep here on the brass disc. So that's how an electroscope is used. Now let's study the properties of charges. The total charge of universe is constant or conserved. That is, if we consider universe as a whole, the total charge of universe is kept as or considered as constant. Now, unlike charges, that is positive charge and negative charge will attract each other, but like charges, that is negative charge and negative charge, or positive charge and positive charge, will tend to repel each other. Now charges are additive in nature. Yes. Now charges are always quantized, that is, it can be converted into a numerical form. Here you can see, if I want to find a charge, Q is equal to N into E. Like total charge of group of electrons is equal to N, that is number of electrons, into E, that is charge on a single electron. Now you know what is net charge on a single electron? The answer is 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb, which is a negative charge. Please note, electron is generally negatively charged, so it's a net negative charge of 1.6 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb. Okay, now charge is relativistically constant. Yes, when there's no work or no induction or conduction done on a body, charge on a body will remain constant depending on to its relevant criteria. Now, the methods of charging. Now, as I said, there's conduction and induction of charges. Now, these are actually the methods of charging. We'll study it here. We study that what is conduction of charge. Now, let me consider one more thing. Okay. Now, this is a light here. Okay. Now, these two are the two bodies. Consider this is having a net negative charge and this is a neutral one. Okay. Now, when I take this negative charged body and touch it touch it for a small amount of time and again take it back, now what happens is, due to this, my negative charges will actually go into this body and I will be having a low number of net negative charge, and this body will also get negative charge as it has been in contact of me. So this is called the charging by conduction method. That is, this was a neutral body at first, but by coming in contact with me or by touching to me, it has gained some negative charge. So this is called charging by conduction. Now let us study charging by induction. Now in this process, a charged object is brought near the two uncharged objects and they are polarized and then separated so that they give a net positive or negative charge. Now how this process actually happens is, consider these two spheres, metal A and B. They are both connected to each other but are mounted on the insulating stand so that they are insulated from the earth. Now, when there's a net negative charge coming towards A, all the positive charges on the A will get accumulated towards the negative charge, external negative charge, and this negative charge will also push the negative charge away from A to B. Hence, this negative charge actually forms up or polarizes object AB. Now, when I just move A and B away, what happens is all the net positive charge gets accumulated on A and B gets accumulated with net negative charge. Yes, and when I put this negative charge away, the all the positive charge on A gets equally divided over its surface, and net negative charge on B also gets negatively equally divided on its surface. Now this is called charging by induction. That is, by bringing another object near to these two objects, and without touching them, I have charged these two objects with different polarities. Now this is how the charging by induction occurs. Okay, now we have studied about charge. Now let's study about electricity. Now what is electricity? Electricity is a form of energy that can be easily changed from one to many other forms. Okay, it is also been defined as a flow of electrons in enclosed electric circuits. Okay, electricity we use to run our drill machines, to run our car, motorboats, oven, iron, refrigerator, to give us light in the form of floodlights, flashlights, lamp, incandescent bulbs. Then we have computer, mobile phones, radio, TV. Everything runs on electricity. So this is the base of our everyday life now. Now, what is electric current? Now, it is a rate of flow of charge or electrons through a conductor. Yes, this is the basic definition of electric current. Now, how it is defined mathematically, it is defined as I is equal to Q upon T, where Q stands for amount of charge flown and T stands for given time. That is, current is amount of charge flown through the conductor in given time. Now, it is a scalar quantity. The SI unit is coulomb per second, or also called as amperes. Yes, and it is measured by a device named as ammeter. Its direction is taken opposite to the flow of electrons. You have to note these points. If the electrons flow from right to left, then the flow of direction of current will be from left to right. It is against the direction of conventional flow of current. We have to note this point. Now, electric current actually flows as a result of potential difference across the ends of conductor. Yes, if this is a conductor, consider this as a conductor. Now, when I apply certain potential or potential voltage across this, then there will be current flowing, because I will be applying a net positive charge here, net negative charge here. Opposite charges attract each other. Hence, the electrons here will be flowing towards the positive terminal of my battery. Hence, the current will be flowing from positive terminal to the negative terminal of my battery. Yes, that's how it is proved that direction of flow of current is opposite to the flow of electrons. Now let's study electric potential or potential difference, or we also called it as voltage. Now, it is the amount of work done in bringing a unit positive charge from infinity to a given point in an electric field. Now, let's consider this as a unit positive charge. And this is also a positively charged conductor placed in the 3D surrounding. Now, when this unit positive charge is brought from infinity towards this positive charge, there has to be some work done, because they both are actually positively charged and they both tend to repel each other, like charges repel each other. Hence, we have to do certain work against the field of this charge. Hence, this is called as electric potential. That is the work done for bringing a unit positive charge from infinity to a given point in the electric field of the other charge. Now, it is also a scalar quantity, and SI unit is joules per coulombs, or also called as volts. Yes. Now, what is potential difference? Potential difference is amount of work done in bringing a unit positive charge from one point to another point in an electric field. Hence, it is also called as electric potential or potential difference. Yeah. So, it is also a scalar quantity, and SI unit is same, volts, or it's also called a joule per coulomb. Now, it is responsible for flow of current. Now, how this is responsible for flow of current, I explained you this earlier. Now, let's again take this example of this conductor. Now, this is a metal conductor. Okay. Now, what I do is I plug my battery, positive terminal of battery here, and negative terminal of my battery here. Okay. Now, that is plugging the connector means what? I am giving certain voltage. That is, voltage here is net positive and voltage here is net negative. Hence, there will be certain voltage difference, that is certain potential I am applying to this conductor. Hence, the electrons will start to flow, because electrons are having net negative charge, right? So they will be getting attracted towards positive terminal of my battery, and hence the current will flow from positive terminal towards negative terminal, as we consider direction of current opposite to flow of electron. Hence, and the potential difference or voltage is measured by a device called as a voltmeter. Yeah. Now, a very interesting topic, Ohm's law. V is equal to IR. Let's study this. It was stated by Sir George Simon Ohm, and hence the law came as Ohm's law. It states that if all the physical conditions like temperature or pressure are kept constant, then the amount of current flowing through a conductor is directly proportional to potential difference across it. Yes, if we consider the temperature of surrounding and the pressure here constant, then the amount of current flowing through the conductor is directly proportional to potential difference applied here. Yes, and if the conditions are changed accordingly, the law doesn't hold good. Hence we always take the physical condition constant while studying the Ohm's law. That is, it states I is proportional to V. Current is proportional to voltage. If voltage increases, current increases. If voltage decreases, current decreases. Hence, to get the proportionality constant, we take value R. That is resistance. Hence the formula becomes V is equal to IR, where R stands for resistance. Now what is this resistance? Resistance is the opposition to the flow of charge. We'll study this later. Now according to this law, Ohms divided all the conductors into two major categories. They are being called as ohmic conductors and non-ohmic conductors. Ohmic conductors tend to follow the Ohm's law. That is, V or I is linearly proportional to V. Okay, I is linearly proportional to V. This is followed by ohmic conductors. But the non-ohmic conductor does not follow Ohm's law. That is, the V and I graph of these conductors is non-linear. It's rather exponential than linear. Now, let's understand the graphs of conductor. What are ohmic and non-ohmic conductors through the graph? Here we see ohmic devices graph or ohmic conductors graph is shown linear. That is, on independent axis x-axis we have voltage, on dependent axis I, that is current. Hence current is dependent on voltage, and here if we take reciprocal of this slope, we get R, that is resistance, which is a constant right now. Okay, but for non-ohmic conductors, here we see that this graph is not linear. Here we see a straight line passing through the origin. Here line is passing through the origin, but it's not straight. Okay, so these are called as non-ohmic conductors, and for them V is equal to IR, that is Ohm's law does not hold good. Now resistance and resistivity. Now resistance is defined as hindrance to the flow of current. Hindrance means opposition. Okay. Now it is a ratio of voltage and current. Yes, as I said, V is equal to IR, hence R is equal to V by I. Simple. Its SI unit is defined as volts per ampere or ohm, and its reciprocal is called as conductance, that is C. The SI unit of conductance is ohm inverse. Simple. Unit of resistance is ohms and unit of conductance, that is reciprocal of resistance, is ohm inverse. Now here you can see there's a major relation here. If our conductor has high resistance, then there will be low current flowing here. If our conductor has low resistance, then there will be high current flowing here. Yes, so resistance is inversely proportional to current. That is what we see from this relation. Now, factors affecting resistance. Resistance is more affected by length, and resistance is inversely affected by area of cross sectional. Now, what does this mean is, if I increase the length of this conductor, consider now currently this is having a length of 15 centimeter. If I double its length and take the length of 30 centimeter, its resistance will also be doubled. That is, resistance is proportional to length. But now currently if consider the area of cross section of this conductor is around 1 mm square. Now if I increase the area to 2 mm square, then the resistance will be halved. Yes, as the area of cross section increases, the resistance goes on decreases. Hence area of cross section is inversely proportional to resistance. Now when we combine these two relations and add a proportionality constant, we get the formula R is equal to rho L by A, where rho stands for specific resistance or resistivity of a conductor. Here you can see R is equal to rho L by A, where rho is resistivity. Now this resistivity is dependent function of material which is used to build the conductor. Here let's understand what this specific resistance means in detail. Now, specific resistance is the resistance of conductor of unit length and unit area of cross section. Yes, because here in this formula, if I take length as 1, area as 1, hence resistance becomes equal to resistivity. That is, specific resistance or resistivity is the resistance of a conductor having unit length and unit area of cross section. Now, it depends on material of conductor. As I said earlier, it's denoted by the symbol rho, denoted like this. It is having the unit ohm meter, which is SI unit, and it is proportional to temperature. That's why while studying resistance of any body, we always take all the constant, physical phenomena as constant. That is temperature constant, pressure constant, and etc. So now, specific resistance is also known as resistivity, as I talked about earlier. Now, this is a resistivity table of various materials. Here you can see this is the silver, copper, gold, aluminium, and in this sheet you can see that silver is having most resistivity. Like if we take a standard temperature of 23 degrees Celsius, silver is having resistance, specific resistance of 1.59 into 10 raised to minus 8 ohms meter. Okay, so this means that silver is the best conductor of electricity among this. Then comes the copper, gold, aluminium, tungsten, and so on. Yes. Now let's move further. Now, types of resistances. If you have visited any physics lab during our college hours, you see that there are two types of resistances. One is fixed resistance, another is variable resistance. Here are the fixed resistance. Their value is depending on the color code present here. And another is the variable resistance, or also called as rheostat. Its value varies as per the notch we vary here. Yes. Now, electric circuit and its components. Now, this is the very interesting part. Let's move on to it. Let's just observe these two pictures. Here, can you just tell me why the bulb here is on and here is off? The answer is the bulb here is on because this is a closed circuit. The current flowing here has a closed path, hence the bulb is glowing. But here this is an open circuit. The key here is open, hence the current is not having any closed path, and that's why the bulb is off. So this is a basic electric circuit which we are going to study. Now these are the basic symbols used in electric circuits. Here you can see this is a cell. Here this long end means positive terminal, short end means negative terminal. This is a battery. Now battery is basically the combinations of cells. Hence this is shown like this. One cell, then second cell, then third cell. Yes. Now this is a key. This is called as a plug key. Here now it is open right now. Now this is also a plug key. Now it is closed. Now this is called as a T-wire joint. Now this is a jumper wire, that is the horizontal wire here does not touch the vertical wire. Yeah, this is the notation used for electric bulbs. Now this is the notation used for fixed resistance. Fixed resistance which I showed you earlier. Now this is the notation used for variable resistance or rheostat as I shown in the earlier picture. Now here is a notation for ammeter. Ammeter is always connected in series with the circuit, and voltmeter is always connected in parallel with the circuit. Yes, that's because current is measured in a series with the component, and voltage is measured in a parallel to the given component. Now let's understand the measuring devices. Now ammeter, as I said, ammeter is connected in series to the given device. Now we have to study how much amount of current is flowing through this wire. Now, now what we do is we connect positive side of a battery to positive terminal of ammeter and negative terminal of battery to a load. Currently we use bulb as a load, and then another terminal of load is connected to the negative terminal of battery. Now the circuit is complete. As you can see, the positive charge coming here, going into the ammeter, coming out, then going into bulb, and finally going into the battery, and the circuit is getting completed. Now here the ammeter is connected in series with the component. Hence we are able to study how much amount of current is flowing through the circuit. Now second one is a voltmeter. Now this device is connected in parallel to the given component. Now here we have battery as a power source, bulb as a load, and we in parallel we have connected our voltmeter. The positive of battery is connected to positive of voltmeter, negative of battery connected to negative of voltmeter, and similarly parallel to this battery is connected the bulb. Now here our device shows the value of voltage across the battery in the working condition. Here. Now with this, I end my presentation. Further topics will be covered in the next part of the video. Thank you for listening to me patiently. Thank you.